yeah, and I didn't really have time to do it. And then I was just like, what else can I do? And then I was like, oh, right, I have been procrastinating reviewing games because I say that I put up all my reviews on Backlogged for everything that I play, but what keeps happening, it's like 3 times in a row now where I don't review a game when I'm done with it, and then I play another game, and then it happens again, and then another game, and then another game, and then another game. So like the last 3 times that I've written reviews on Backlogged, it's been like 5 or 6 games at once, and both times that I did that, I was like, this is dumb, I gotta stop doing this, I need to do this like right when I'm done so that I can have it as fresh in my memory as possible, do it, and then not have to think about it. But then, this time, I let 9 games stack up. After twice, there being like 5 or 6 of them. So I just literally, well, I just shoved a bunch of oatmeal in my mouth before this started. But before that, I was writing 9 reviews back to back, some of which shorter and less detailed, for the last 9 games that I played. And I'm going to go over them as part of the stream later, because I feel like it. So, I remembered okay, what keeps happening with a couple of these is like, my thing is that I'm not going to review a game until I'm done with it. But then there's like certain games that I'm not done with necessarily, or I don't know if I'm done with it. Like I didn't do everything in Donkey Kong. So I was like, I'm probably going to return to it. I'm not done with it. So I'm not going to review it yet. Same thing with Elden Ring Night Rain. I didn't finish it. Same thing with Mario Kart. Obviously, don't finish it. So I just kept, these games were stacking up where like I didn't know, like I wasn't sure if I was going to review them yet, and I was just procrastinating it. I get divorced. Nice new mic? No, there's no new mic here. I've been using this for, how long have I had this? A few years. This is what I've been using the whole time. I just usually don't have it right up in my face. I'm usually hiding it to some degree. Review the Quarry. Oh shit, I missed it. I don't think, damn it, that was another one. Oh no, I didn't do that. Was another one that was on the list that I was supposed to review. I'm an idiot. I knew there was something I was forgetting. I was like racking my brain of what I played over the past few months, and I came up with these 9. I totally forgot that. All right. So here was my question for the topic of the week. Feel free to contribute whatever you feel like in the chat. I will try to get back around to comments. I might get lost in talking about whatever it is that I'm talking about here, because I'm going to respond to the ones that were written in the Discord. But, of course, we're always having a conversation here. So, this was the main question that was asked. Your answer is way too long for chat. Did you see Sushi's answer? It's double yours and Jack's. What you wrote, it's probably more in line with what you said you wrote in your document. Yeah. Okay, well, we'll get there. Yeah, they wrote a lot. So there's a lot of words. I didn't read anything that anyone wrote because I didn't want to know. You were getting lost? Yeah. It's true. It's fair. All right. So the main question that was posed, feel free to answer. What is your ideal level of difficulty in a game? Actually, you know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to, while we're talking about it, I'm just going to go like this. Topic of the week. Okay. Too long to read. I knew it wasn't about. Okay. Here's a question. What is your ideal level of difficulty in a game? Be sure to give an example or 2 of games that represent that ideal difficulty for you. Does it change based on genre? How many times can you fail something before you become frustrated? those were all my questions. They were just like leading questions. You don't necessarily have to answer each one in like a point form. Somebody did, but it was just kind of to open the conversation. So we got a response here from Jorzilla. The ideal level of difficulty level of a game is like spice tolerance. E.g., just at what you can tolerate. I tend to play all first-person shooters on the hardest difficulty, but I never do one death type runs. This is because of years of playing Halo like this. If I'm playing a super detailed strategy game, I tend to play on moderate difficulty because I don't necessarily want to take the time to map out interacting abilities and systems, and generally like to focus on building an economy up. That makes sense. This is also kind of how I feel about certain things. Like, I'm not always looking for the same difficulty across the board, which is not necessarily even possible in the first place because every genre kind of deals with difficulty differently in the first place. Because either you're dealing with difficulty in terms of like how smart the AI is, or like how good your reflexes are, or how quickly you can think in regards to solving a problem, or it's going to be just, unfortunately, in some cases, it simply means that you just kind of need to do more damage to the thing or avoid taking damage, which, you know, sometimes cannot be very fun. But so I do like how he points out that he does like to play on the hardest difficulty, but never the one death type runs, because that, I feel like that's such a massive jump in terms of what it is asking of you. And I totally agree. Like, I would much rather play something that's very hard and like kind of try to improve as I'm doing it. The amount of patience it requires to like restart a game because you've set some sort of challenge, or if it's like included in the game of it, like you die, you have to start over. Like, I've personally never understood the fascination with that. Like, that's just too much, even as someone who likes games to be challenging. So I understand that. And yeah, shooters are definitely fun to play on harder difficulties. As long as you have the aiming ability to deal with that. And it's not always about aiming, it's about like placement and management of your ammo and stuff. And then yeah, he's talking about strategy games. Yeah, sometimes you don't want to be, if I'm sure, well, see, I guess that would kind of play into like Slay the Spire. So for that, maybe I would. Like, I do appreciate playing on the hardest difficulty in Slay the Spire because of how well it's balanced. But in most games, yeah, it just requires too much of a perfection and like way too much brain power consistently to to do that. So, all right, good answer. Good answer. I think we might have a little bit of a different answer here. Thank you, Eddie, for the wonderful bit. Might have a little bit of a different answer here from Simply. I've not read these, so I don't really know. What did she write? She said she had a lot to say and then cut it down, did not write all of it. So I'm curious as to what she didn't say. I think there's a lot to factor in when talking about difficulty. In short, I prefer low to medium difficulty. This doesn't mean I like easy games, though. I just like games that come with a low stress level, because having added stress in a game for sure impacts the difficulty. For example, any war or fighting game has added stress, making it a harder game. I guess, like, yeah, just inherently, you, yeah, we love casual gaming. Everybody plays differently, or likes different things. What was I saying? That is interesting. You say like there's an inherent stress in something that is like a fighting game, or that you're like in combat situations regardless of the difficulty. I've never really thought about that because I'm just so used to playing games like that they're all kind of just like all types of games. They're not, like I said, they're not all the same, but I guess they're even less the same than I was considering, because when you think about it in that way, where you're like, the actual act of what it is that you're doing is already stressing you out because you're like trying not to die. As opposed to like playing a platformer or something where it's more like, or it doesn't feel as serious. Even if you're playing a platformer that's more difficult than like a fighting game or like an action game where you're like killing each other. The actual act of being in a situation where people are dying just makes it more stressful. That's interesting. I don't know if the game's, I don't know if that's true for me, but I guess that could be true for others, like you're saying for yourself. I enjoy puzzle games. You can have a hard puzzle, but not have the added stress of a timer or dying. Yeah, yeah, when you say it like that, that makes it make more sense. Especially a timer. That's definitely stressful. I died a lot in the Quarry. I seem stress-free. Well, yeah, because in something like the Quarry, it's you understand going in that it doesn't matter what happens. Like you're not losing, you're just getting a different outcome. It kind of like establishes the rules differently than most games where there's not really, I mean, maybe there is, I don't know. I guess if everyone dies, I don't really know how the game can play out, but I'm assuming there's not really like a losing condition. You don't lose. Maybe you do, maybe there is, but you'd have to be pretty, I feel like you'd really have to try to lose, if so. So it's not exactly the same. But yeah, that is a different way of looking at it. But yes, a timer is like a different level, completely different kind of difficulty being added. Because I didn't even mention that when I was talking earlier about the different kinds of difficulty when it comes to like your own abilities or AI or whatever else. Like I didn't mention time, because that doesn't happen that often anymore necessarily. Timers used to be more relevant in older games. I feel like there's obviously newer games that implement timers, but for the most part that's not a thing, unless you're doing like timed challenges within something. Then yeah, it does matter. You don't care about them dying to werewolves. No, I know it matters to what like the outcome. I just mean like it doesn't. It's not as stressful to me because I know that the game will continue regardless. So it's not. I'm not in fear of losing, like doing something wrong necessarily, because I know that like you are the one making the decisions that make things unfold a certain way. Simply continues. So the genre does have an impact. How many times do I try before I get frustrated? The question is not how many times before I get frustrated. I can try an unlimited amount of times without getting mad if I don't see progress in my technique. But once I start getting close to finishing the puzzle or the task and fail right at the end, then I'll be needing a new controller, because the one I had when I started the game will get a flying lesson. Don't get upset at trying and learning. I get upset when I understand what needs to be done and how, but then I F it up on the last step. Ah, that's interesting. So you don't mind the learning process of difficulty. I guess, does that happen to me too? Maybe. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's definitely much, when you fail something, being very close to completing it, it is much worse than if you like fail it immediately. That's definitely true. And I feel like it becomes more true the more that you fail it too. Like it just keeps compounding. If you've tried something like twice and you get to the end and almost get it, it's like, oh, okay, I'll get it next time. But then if you've tried something like 7 times and then you get to the end of it and barely mess up, then it's like, oh, no, I could have been done. Now I have to do this again. Or if you're at the point where you're like over 10, 15, 20 tries at something and that happens, yeah, it's yeah, you're done for. That's a lot. So I guess I do feel that way. But it's interesting that you said, what did you say? You can try an unlimited amount of times without getting mad. I don't know if I believe you. I'm going to call you out. An unlimited amount of times without getting mad if you don't see progress. I feel like if you don't see progress, you would stop. And get mad in the process. I'm not saying you, I mean like anyone. If you're not seeing progress, I don't see being happy with that, I guess. I mean, somebody can correct me if they feel differently, but if you're trying something over and over again and it's difficult and you're not even like, feel like you're not learning and don't understand, I feel like that's a different level of frustration. Because then there is like a toss-up between whether or not you feel like you're blaming the game for not teaching you, or if you're blaming yourself for not understanding, but you think that the game is teaching you. Like, those are two different outcomes. And I felt the complete opposite spectrum, both of those. Call them out. Sorry, Simply. All right, the next write-in is from this guy. His name, what is that? Sush Idru? Sush Idru, I think is how you say it. I don't know. He wrote a lot. I think he did try to answer my questions. Oh, no, he didn't. Well, we'll see. He has a list of 1 and 2 here. I'm not sure. Okay. I've not read this at all. I don't know what I'm about to say something crazy. I don't know. Sushi Drew writes, to me. Yeah, there was a few questions. So I'll just go back real quick. So I asked a few questions. I asked, what is your ideal level of difficulty in a game? Be sure to give an example or two of games that represent that ideal difficulty. Does it change based on genre? How many times can you fail something before you become frustrated? These were my questions. He writes, to me, I don't have an ideal level of difficulty in games because, yes, it does depend on the game I'm playing. Typically, I like to start a game on a harder difficulty because I find most games too easy unless the higher difficulty just makes the game longer because of monotonous fighting over a good challenge. Yeah. Yeah. AKA bullet sponges. Actually, I wrote about that in one of my reviews. Oh, it was Night Rain. We'll get to that later. All right. 1. I don't know why this is listed as 1 and 2, but maybe... Oh, it's the different types of games, I see. If the game is designed to be a challenge, then I prefer it to be hard, like Souls games and Elden Ring's baseline difficulty. The reason I love this is because I'm motivated to overcome what the game throws at you, and it forces me to engage in the game's super deep mechanics. The feeling of beating a boss in these games are so satisfying, and it being too easy will completely destroy the whole point. However, this can also lead to stress and frustration. I don't play these games to relax. I play because it's so fun to overcome these challenges. I mostly agree. I feel like recently, in the past couple of years, I've started... I'll get into this with the Night Rain review that I wrote. I've started to feel a little bit less like this. Just a little bit. At least in terms of what seems to be games trying to be harder and harder overall. Which is... maybe I'll talk about this later when I kind of answer these questions myself. And then he says, story games, I prefer the difficulty to be more on the story or easy side because, one, I get the game and understand the mechanics well enough. I really stop caring about the gameplay and want to focus more on the story and get through it because most of the time in these games, encounters can be repetitive and boring, so going through them faster is not a bad idea. I mean, that, yeah. I mean, I don't expect him to clarify with like millions of examples in this, but like that can kind of be true sometimes, but story games, like I that's such a general term. Like if we're talking about something like The Last of Us is very much so a story game, but like it's also really good in terms of like the balance of the difficulty and again the fun of overcoming the challenge of like surviving. So I feel like that can go either way still. Depends on what it is. If it's games that really don't have much like in terms of combat, or not even necessarily combat, but just like challenges to overcome, then yeah, you don't want it to get in the way if it's a game that is not about that stuff. It honestly just comes to my mood. I think punishing the player by having them go through the stage for a short while is a fair way to prepare the player for a hard boss fight, like in Silksong. Okay, I didn't realize he wrote this. I basically wrote the opposite in my review of Silksong, again, that I will get to later. It makes it so that the player can focus more on trying to beat the boss seriously. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but when you finally beat it, it's such a good feeling. I also feel strongly that not every game is designed for every gamer. So if the game is too hard for you, then it's just not for you. But I see myself as a pretty avid gamer, so I welcome the Super Challenger games. But sometimes games are not designed with deep mechanics, and if the higher difficulty only increases global values, like the Elder Scrolls games, yeah, then I would rather play it on an easier mode. I like the feeling of carefully watching how many potions I have for a dungeon, but I also don't like enemies that are just HP sponges. Hard but forgiving. If I die because I was bad at the game, I don't mind it, but if it's the game's fault, like bugs or issues with lag or input, that's when I draw the line and lower the difficulty if I can. Yeah, okay, so all that last stuff he said, I agree with. Like, artificial difficulty is really frustrating. And by that, I mean, like, it literally is just up to numbers and stuff. It's like, you can just very obviously see that all that is changing when you are making something more difficult is that you have less health and or the enemies have more health. And it's like, that's it. That usually doesn't translate very well to actually being an interesting challenge, because it's so transparent. Like you just see right through, you just see the numbers. It's like, okay, how is this more fun or more interesting? Like, how is this more challenging just because I have to hit this enemy 3 more times and I can't get hit as much? That's it. And like, there's nothing else to it. Which, like, I guess you could argue that is what's happening regardless in other games that do difficulty better, but there are definitely good and bad examples of it. And yeah, when it usually when it involves like superior decision making and stuff, when it comes to the AI, or like your own strategy having to be significantly different, then we're in a different situation. But when it really is just spend more time hitting the thing, it's a little bit silly. All right, that's it for Sushi's write-in. Now we have Ham. A nice short entry. My ideal level of default difficulty is represented by Doom Eternal. It's a simple and frantic game, and the skill checks ramp up at a mostly even pace. The encounters can be tough, but they're always fair. And I'm never left with the feeling of, I have no idea what I'm expected to do to get past this. They progressively give you the tools you need to deal with bigger challenges. Yeah. The Doom games are, yeah, all three of the Doom games are really good at that, I think. Having just played through the Dark Ages this year. And I did I play Doom Eternal this year? Because I revisited it. I played it at launch, didn't finish it, and then went back to it. That might have been last year, though. Anyways, regardless, doesn't really matter. I agree. And the thing is that you can significantly up the... Did my headset just die? What the? I had this thing plugged in. You can significantly up the difficulty in those games multiple times over. I feel like it didn't even beep at me. I don't know if it's on. Well, I'm not listening to anything right now, so let's let that charge so I can watch these other videos. Whoops. Wait, did it turn on? Hold on. It did. Okay, I'm going to turn it off. Let it charge. Anyways. So, what was I saying? Doom. Yes, you can turn up the difficulty, but that's on you. And it kind of does feel like in those games, if you're upping the difficulty, like you are... Actually, something really interesting about Doom in particular that I really liked, and it has to do with difficulty, so it's good that this was mentioned. I don't know if this was a thing in Doom Eternal, but in Doom the Dark Ages, I started on a higher difficulty, and it was pretty good. I wasn't having too much issue. But I wanted to try messing with the game speed, because the game lets you literally increase the speed when you're playing. Like you can go to 110, 150. I think was 150 the max. I don't remember. Anyways, I put it up a little bit and I was like, "Ooh, this is interesting," because like the game is literally just everything runs just faster. Like the enemies, everything around you is at this percentage, which I think I had it at like 120. And I was like, "Oh, this is really cool." But then because I was playing it faster and it was on harder difficulty, I was like, okay, now this is getting a little bit frustrating. So then I lowered the difficulty back to normal and then put this game's speed up to the max, which I think is 150. I don't remember. And then I was like, wow, now this is really good. So it's like a different version of playing on hard. And it was really fun because everything was just like so fast happening around you. And all of your own actions are sped up. So it was like really reaction-based, which, I mean, it already is a reaction-based game because there's just so many things flying around you that are being fired at you and you're kind of having to dodge things just in every direction. Really be aware of your surroundings. But that was a really interesting way that I would like to see other games implement. I have a feeling it's probably difficult to do because clearly we're seeing a lot of games struggle with performance in the first place. So just hitting 1.5 times speed the entire game probably can introduce pretty significant issues, obviously, if not optimized for. So it's not something you can just do, but it would be cool to see more developers do it because I think it's an interesting way to make a game more difficult and honestly kind of like help with the pacing in some ways, because a lot of games, in my opinion, are just full of things that take too long to do that are just drawn out or repetitive, and just straight up increasing the game's speed to like fix both of these issues. I don't know, it's kind of an interesting solve. But anyway, so Ham was talking, that is not even what Ham was talking about. What Ham is talking about is the progression of the difficulty over time within the game itself, which is also great in Doom because like the game, it's just traditional like good video game design where You start off with some abilities or tools, and the game starts off at a certain level of what it's throwing at you. And then as you get more things, the enemies also get more things, and you're slowly like being introduced. It's not even slowly. In the case of Doom, like it's pretty quickly. You're constantly being introduced to either new mechanics or new enemy mechanics, but then also being given new ways to solve for them. So like you're evolving, the enemy's evolving, you're evolving, the enemy's evolving, back and forth, back and forth. So it always feels like it's good to have some sort of like smooth trajectory with the difficulty and it not just be like, oh my God, this part's impossible. And then the next part's super easy. You don't want it to be doing that. So Doom is very good at that. A lot of games are very good at that. Most games that are good are partially good because that is done well. And it's not necessarily something you think about. You don't really think about that until it's wrong. Like a game having a good difficulty curve, you shouldn't notice until you're asked about it after the fact. And then you're like, oh, you know what? Yeah. Because like with Doom, like I wasn't thinking about that. Ham mentions it, and I'm like, yeah, Doom is really good at that. Everything's getting harder, but you are getting better on like an equal footing the whole time. It's really good at that. And like I said, most games are good at that. And if they're not, it's very obvious. Hello, Drew. Welcome. I just went over all of your response to the topic of the week. And then I just went over Hams. And we have one more. Oh, I guess we have two more. You missed it. You done missed it a little bit. Just a little bit. Yeah, I disagreed with everything you said. No, I disagreed with a couple things you said, but I agreed with a couple things you said. I agreed with most of it. Use the rewind. I guess so. All right, Jack Quixotic writes another lengthy reply, and I think I just noticed he mentions Doom in it again. We're gonna talk about more Doom. I wonder if he said what I said. That'd be weird. I haven't read. Like I said, I haven't read this. So Jack says, how difficulty is generally handled in the precision platformer genre is one of the main reasons I like it so much. This genre is typically characterized by short but difficult platforming sections. An abundance of checkpoints are provided to clamp down on frustration. Usually, there's a checkpoint every room, where a room is a static, non-scrolling platformer level. Platforming through a difficult section is thrilling and satisfying once you pull it off. Some might call it the best part. You're the action movie star hurling your body through a window, narrowly escaping an explosion. The precision platformer genre delivers the best part to you, hot to go, over and over. Wow. Look at this rating. It's similar to rewinding in Mario Kart World to practice a difficult shortcut. Oh, he's like, just in case you didn't understand, I gotta relate this to something you will understand. I understood it already, okay? You didn't have to relate it to Mario Kart. I understood. Super Meat Boy is the obvious example. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is not in the genre, but is strongly influenced by it. My favorite game in the genre is probably The End Is Nigh. Super Meat Boy is really good, and I agree. It's pretty much exactly exactly what you described. You basically just described that game. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown does have platforming sections that are quite like that. Same as Guacamelee, which is why I love Guacamelee so much. It has a lot of precision platforming, especially like at the end of the game. And the thing is, it has to feel good. And like Drew said, it has to feel like it is your fault when you do something right or when you do something wrong. And yeah, Guacamelee is great at that. Prince of Persia is too. Super Meat Boy, same. I'm wondering if you've played Celeste, because that often gets brought up in that conversation. The End Is Nigh, I've honestly never heard of. So, might have to look at that. Guess my preferred difficulty is high, but done with grace. Quick restarts, quality of life provisions, minimal downtime, lack of fluff, short loading times. Yeah, all that's important to me. again, where some of my frustration with Silksong comes in. Doom: The Dark Ages is a recent game that qualifies. The kind of difficulty I'm usually very reluctant to engage with is the trust the process kind. This is often found in 4X strategy games and similar genres. Games too complex to grasp until you've sunk a couple hundred hours. It's akin to picking up a single small object off a table and examining it closely. Then you must do that in turn for each of the other 1,000 baubles sitting on that massive table. Yeah, that's why I've just never even gone near that genre. I'm just like, nope, I don't want to do this. You have to let your subconscious do a lot of the work for you in the background over time, chunking together all those bits of information until you can manipulate them by intuition eventually. I've managed it a few times, but commonly I don't feel up to it. Same. The most recent game I've been trying to get to grips with that has this kind of difficulty is Dune Spice Wars. It's going to take a while. Yeah, I'm just not for being that all of that. But good luck. Yeah. So the difficulty, that's again a different kind of difficulty. So that's just like the difficulty of understanding complexity, which is definitely a massive. So that's a massive like upfront hurdle, which I'm not a fan of generally. Like I said, that's the difficulty spike in a different way, because I was talking about like either platforming or combat, shooting, like fighting things, difficulty spikes. But it also applies here where like literally just turning the game on and then starting to read a bunch of things about how to play in the first place and what everything does is also a massive difficulty spike. And you don't know how many times if you first turn on a game and you cannot even remotely comprehend what you're looking at, and it's that much of a difficulty spike to you, then you know that it's just going to keep happening too. It's not like it's just going to happen that one time at the beginning. No, that's going to keep happening. So like you're really signing on for like putting yourself through that. So you better want to do it. What game am I talking about? That was just in reference to like 4X strategy games, like I don't know what Command and Conquer, like Civilization, is that in that genre? Just giant top-down games where you're like managing countries and war and whatever. Things with a lot of tiny moving pieces that you have to fully understand to truly like play properly. And then Eddie writes, the shortest of the contributions to the topic of the week, and the last one. Eddie writes, I just don't like repeating things over and over. That's fair. I mean, the thing is, I know that you like Dark Souls. Or did. So, that's interesting. That's interesting, Eddie. Are you just over that now at this point? I do kind of agree. Like, but it really depends. You like the lore and stuff. I don't really like the challenge anymore. Yeah. I'm kind of, it's not the lore for me, but I'm kind of going in that direction recently where like, well, yeah, I'll get to it when I go over a couple of the reviews that I wrote later. I keep referencing them. But you got the bad ending 2 days ago on Sekiro on accident? Oh, you were trying to do something else and then you accidentally... Oh, no. That's not good. Not good at all. All right, so does anyone have any other contributions they want to make to anything that was just said, or like their own answer to any of these questions about difficulty? Or so again, the questions that were posed: what is your ideal level of difficulty in a game? Be sure to give an example of games that are the ideal difficulty? Does it change based on genre? How many times can you fail something before you become frustrated? If anyone has any answers that were not already written here, or if somebody has a response to me responding to what they said, feel free to contribute before I move on to the next piece of the menu, if you know what I mean. I will sit here for approximately 7 minutes and wait. Just kidding. 7 seconds is what I meant to say. That was a lot. Oh, I guess I should say mine. What am I talking about? I'm not moving on. I haven't answered the question myself. So, well, I mean, I kind of did. Okay, hold on. Bringer's got an answer. I don't like difficulty. Not how Bethesda does it, where they make enemies become damage sponges and they deal a crap ton. Yeah, so Drew mentioned that in his. Specifically mentioned also Bethesda, yeah, and I agreed. Artificial feeling difficulty when it's just numbers and you can very plainly see through it. It's not satisfying. It's hard to garner satisfaction from overcoming something that you can like feel exactly what it is that you're doing to change it to make it more difficult, or you can like literally see it. It's like, oh, now I'm just dealing slightly less damage. Okay. Cool. Which, again, that is... It's almost hard to explain because that is part of what does make other games more difficult. It's just that... Yeah. Yeah, like, it has to involve more so, like, various different things that you're doing and not strictly, like, number-based, like, one input and output. In Final Fantasy 16, when you unlock Final Fantasy mode, all enemy placements are different, and you also get new mobs, which was awesome. Yeah. Dads take their time to increase difficulty in a good way. Yo, Chophead. I'm doing episode 2 of a talk show where we go over various things. Right now, we're doing the topic of the week for today, which is your preference of game difficulty. Games that you think do difficulty correctly or incorrectly. Why? How difficult do you like it? Is there certain genres that you take more seriously? Etc., etc. I've been talking about it for about 40 minutes now, so we're already deep into it. They do more damage, I don't care, but if they have more health, I don't like. Yeah, those are a couple. Those tend to be different things, because then if you don't have a way of doing more, then it is just you're just drawing it out. It is different. Yeah, Final Fantasy 16 is an interesting thing to bring up. Like, I don't even remember. I platinumed it. I did play it again on Final Fantasy mode. I remember it still not being, like, it was still pretty easy. So, I don't really remember the placements and stuff being different, but I guess if that's true, then I guess it was. That is nice. That is something that is a good change for sure, to make you like think a little bit differently. You're not literally doing the same thing again if you're going to replay a game. But yeah, that game still... Final Fantasy 16 is a kind of bad example of difficulty in games. It is way too easy, especially for what it is. Like, it kind of... So actually, that is something I remember. It's not that bad. And I remember not being that upset that it was easy, because in a game like Final Fantasy 16, it's so like spectacle based. It looks so cool. Everything looks so cool when you're doing it, that like if you were to fail It's not cool anymore when you do it again. So it's almost like I don't want it to be hard and to lose and to have to keep trying, because the game's main strength is that it looks and feels cool to do the things, but only once. If you're going to keep repeating a boss fight and having to go through like these cinematic events and stuff, it's going to lose its luster real quick. So it's like you really don't want to be repeating the bosses because they're all about like, oh my god, this is freaking nuts. This is amazing. Look at this. Like, just like I said, it's a spectacle. So you don't want to ruin that. It would feel less of a spectacle if you're like repeating it. Hello, your favorite spoon. Welcome, welcome. I'll get to your comment in a second here. Most first-person shooters you prefer. The highest difficulty makes me better at reaction when I go into online. That makes sense. Yeah. RPGs, medium. Fair enough. Yeah, it depends on. For me, it depends on what it is and what, like, whether or not added difficulty is just going to unnecessarily make the numbers go up, like we were talking about. Favorite spoon. I have to have. I don't know why I had trouble reading that. I have to have my game on the normal setting, and then when I'm in the game, then I'll switch it to the easy setting sometimes, but I usually forget. Fair enough. Well, if you're forgetting, then it probably is not bothering you. If you like games being on the easier side, then, I mean, clearly it's not imbalanced or like upsetting you if you don't even remember to switch it. What about games that have no difficulty settings, like old school NES or SNES games? Ninja Gaiden, after playing for 15 hours, I can get through World 1, 4, no problem. 5 and 6 is a beast. Same goes with Castlevania. Yeah, when we're talking about old games, the difficulty levels are definitely all over the place. Some of them are insanely hard, some of them are like way too easy. I mean, I guess that's still the case today, kind of. I feel like the absurdly difficult games are not as common now. I definitely prefer when games don't have. Well, no, that's not even true. I've kind of changed my mind on that topic recently. Up until like the last year or so, I've always said that I prefer when it's just one difficulty option and you don't have a choice. I'm kind of starting to. I'm like totally on the fence with that. Obviously, the number one thing, all that really matters there to me is like whatever the developer wants is what the right answer is. If they want to have a difficulty, then that's the right answer. If they don't, then that's the right answer. I'm not going to choose for them. Like, which is why I'm so on the fence, because sometimes I like it and sometimes I don't want it. I guess to answer the actual questions myself, because I haven't done that, I've kind of touched on my responses as I've gone through the other answers. My general answer, regardless of genre, is that I do play games to be challenged. And if I'm not, it is way easier for me to lose interest in a game. But it is not always required for me to like something. For instance, like Sword of the Sea recently, not even remotely difficult, but I loved playing it. Like completely. Just because it was a great experience, all encompassing. Every aspect of the game was great. But for instance, if playing through Expedition 33 was like completely easy, I would have lost interest, because a lot of what was drawing me into that was that the fights required you to be like paying attention and that they were challenging. Or again, something like obviously Souls games, action games generally, if you're like fighting things, I like to have a consistent challenge. There might be, I mean, there's probably examples in which that's not the case, but for the most part, I am looking to almost every game I want a challenge, even if it is a story-focused game. Like I was talking about earlier in response to what Drew said, The Last of Us, for instance, to me, the story and like the narrative and like the characters' interactions and everything surrounding that is heavily enhanced when you play the game on like Survivor. Now, I think grounded mode is too hard to the point that it's annoying, but Survivor mode, which is so there's basically like normal, hard, Survivor, and then grounded. So it's like the second highest difficulty. I feel like Survivor is like essential to The Last of Us feeling the amount of stressful that it needs to feel to like match the setting and the circumstance. Like you should have barely any supplies. You should be dying and then barely get through a situation. Otherwise, it doesn't match the game. If you're just breezing through something like The Last of Us, that you're in like a serious dire situation and you're just like bye, and like it doesn't make any sense. You should be struggling because the characters are struggling. Like there's a match there. But obviously I know that like I wouldn't want in that game for it to only be like to be forced to play on that difficulty, because I want other people to be able to play it, because it's not only about that. Like there's a lot of other like direct storytelling and stuff that is going on that people will appreciate regardless. I just think that it is a better experience if you're playing it and struggling. Although somebody who is a different skill level at playing games is going to struggle on normal difficulty. So I guess it's relevant to whatever your skill level is. So everything I said is kind of, irrelevant. Because if I'm playing on Survivor and I'm barely getting through, and I'm like, this is great because I'm struggling just like they are. But somebody else is playing on normal and they're like, I'm struggling just like they are. Well, then that's the same experience. As long as you're getting that experience, as long as you're not breezing through it, I feel like, because then you're getting a different experience that is not intended. I'm using The Last of Us as an example, but that could apply to various things, of course. Also, again, part of the reason for this topic of the week came up obviously because of Silksong. So I'm going to mention that game again as an example. I feel like I've become very aware of like the exact moment that I become frustrated with games now in terms of either difficulty or like repetition. And not just because of this game. This is something I've realized in the past few years, is that there's like almost like a formula to it. It's to the point where like there's very specific numbers of times that I am willing to try something until I get to various degrees of being frustrated. I like my ideal level of difficulty for almost any game, like regardless of genre, anything, is that I on the first try of anything, I feel like there's a chance that I could have done it. I could do it. And if I don't, I want to do it and in the first 3 tries. Once I get to the 4th try, I'm starting to get frustrated. And if I get to like the 7th try, then I'm like, this sucks. Not this sucks, that's strong. Then I'm just like, yeah, then I'm just at that point I'm thoroughly in the annoyed pocket. I love being able to like sense the difficulty of something and understanding that like I'm barely accomplishing what I'm accomplishing, but doing it on the first try. And if I don't, I like knowing that I could have done it on the first try. But if a game demands of you that you do something over and over and over again to learn how to do it, as someone who generally is good at understanding games, that is annoying. I'm like, I don't want to do this. That you are wasting my time. At some point, I don't want to keep doing this. Like, let me move on. At some point, it's just not fun, and I feel like that some point is like, depending on what the game is, somewhere between like 4 and 8 tries is where I'm progressively starting to lose interest in whatever it is I'm doing, or just getting to the point where after I do it, I'm not satisfied. Like if I beat something easily on the first time, I'm not satisfied. If I barely beat something on the first try, I'm very satisfied. If I barely beat something on the second or third try, very satisfied. But then if I get to the point where I'm at like 6, 7, 8 tries and I barely succeed, then I'm like, okay, well, I feel like I probably wasted at least 20 minutes in there. That was a little unnecessary. Like, I don't want to do it that many times. And yes, even in Souls games, for sure. It's become very apparent because of Souls games recently. Like, and there was a couple things, I don't even remember what they were at this point. There was, so like in Silksong, I beat all the encounters or bosses in like, on average, between like 0 and 3 times, which is great, perfect. But then there's a couple situations, again, I don't remember exactly what they were, where like it took upwards of like 6 or 7 tries, and I was like, and like they're not even things, I can't even remember what they are, but they're not even things that are like, everyone's like, oh my God, this is so hard. It's just like, for whatever reason, it just wasn't working out in those instances. And it just, that's when like frustration starts to compound, and then I'm just not having a good time. So I feel like that's where games tend to lose me. But obviously it's going to be different for everybody, and everyone's going to have a different experience with various different things. And not everyone has the same issues with the same parts of the same games. So there's no, you can't come up with any sort of definitive answer for any of this, obviously. But I've just found for myself that regardless of whatever situation is going on, for myself and for my own abilities that I'm aware of what I'm able to accomplish in various games, I love when a game is clearly difficult, but I can barely do it in 1 try. Or I'll have to figure it out, try it 1, 2, maybe 3 more times. But then after that, then I'm just like, you're making me try too hard. Basically. I start losing interest. Which is a problem that I've noticed over time has become a thing with video games recently, where it seems like everyone is trying to outdo themselves in terms of difficulty, and like a solution to sequels is like, well, it's got to be harder. And I'm starting to get tired of that, even with games that I really like Shadow of the Erd Tree. It's like past games have seen the success and adoration that they have because of whatever difficulty. Like, that's part of it. So then why must we continue to make things more difficult? Wouldn't that mean that it's now too difficult? If it was good before, isn't more difficult bad? I would think so. Just because, like, the thing is, like, obviously people generally are getting better at certain types of games as they play more of them, and like your skills will transfer. So then developers are like, well, now we have a bunch of people that were good at our past games coming into this. We need to challenge them. Therefore, we need to make this more hard. And like, I just don't agree with that. I don't need a sequel to be harder than the previous game. And I just wish that that was a normal thing to say, but it seems like some people want that, at least outwardly seem to express that. And I feel like it's influenced a lot. I feel like it's been influencing developers to keep upping difficulty in a negative way. Yeah, yes, I agree, Link. That's what I'm talking about. Um, I agree, Chophead. Uh, yeah, you don't want to alienate people either. That's what I'm kind of saying is like, if you're designing something to be like more difficult because you understand that people that have played previous games or similar games are now going to be better at them. So you're like, okay, well, those people aren't going to be challenged by our new game. So we need to like invent new, either come up with new challenges, which is fair as long as they're kind of adjacent, or make things more difficult. Like, that's where I just feel like you're overstepping. And yeah, you're going to alienate people who already didn't want to play the other game, or people that are just like barely getting through it in the first place. Oh, weird. So there's a couple more things that I want to do today. I think that I'm going to call it, unless anyone has anything else to say about the difficulty. There is an ad that is about to happen in a couple minutes here. So it's a perfect time to switch over to the next thing I was going to do, which is Community Showcase videos by Hooky and Sushi Drew. After the ad. I'll make myself real small. So I'm basically not here. I'm just going to be here down in the corner. Get the popcorn. Get the popcorn. You better eat that popcorn real quick. This is not a 2.5 hour video. Although, that always sucks when you're watching a movie and then you eat the popcorn in the first, like, 5 minutes. And it's really, like, not part of the experience, you know? Anyways, volume, I don't know what volume I should have it at, frankly. So this is the video in question, of course. Of course. And I'm going to play it. So find out what it's about real quick. It is about haste. You ever heard of it? Of course, this is a video by Hooky. He writes the videos, produces the videos. Is that the word produces? I don't know if that... I don't know how that works. Structures. Voices the videos. He is the video, but I edit. Direct. Yeah, I guess you'd be, yeah. Direct is actually more accurate. You're a director. But yes, I edited the video. That's what I was trying to say. All right. Let me know about the volume. It should be similar to what I sound like. I might just play it on max volume. That's probably wrong. We're gonna go with that. All right. Let's do it. Let's learn about haste. You're the Eddie's the producer, right? I gotta put you in the credits next time. Actually, we might go max volume. Is that good?
I love running fast in video games. I love video games that let me run fast.
Is it quiet? Because it might be. All right, that's kind of a problem. I'm gonna heighten the desktop audio, and hopefully that fixes it. This is the max I can have it at. So, whoops.
I love running fast in video games. I love video games that let me run fast. Maybe it's the impact Sonic Adventure 2 left on my 4-year-old mind, but clocking in at top speed is so thrilling to me. Enter Haste, a roguelike running game with the goal of speeding through levels as fast as possible to outrun the apocalypse. Is that even a genre? And the game certainly delivers on that premise. Build up speed by making perfect landings on procedurally generated terrain to keep your momentum going through a level, racing towards a portal to the next one. You go up and down terrain, right along railroads, hit speed rings through tight corridors, dodge lasers, bombs, and other obstacles on your way to an S-rank. I love the way this game plays and feels. Zoe, the main character, controls so well both on the ground and in the air. It's honestly what I wish a Sonic game could feel like. Maybe a tangent best saved for another time, but Sonic games by comparison feel so controlled and robotic. In Haste, I feel like I'm one with the wind, and no matter how fast I'm going, the movement is natural. Ookie from the future here, telling you to subscribe if you like my content. There'll be more to come, but for now, I have to make haste. The game offers you several choices for items to help with your movement, like the hoverboard or the glider. My favorite though is the grappling spear, essentially a hook shot that propels you forward, and with a good landing you can keep that momentum. It also has some, zany applications. But more on that later. The only complaint I could levy towards the flow of the game is that sometimes the terrain gets in its own way and just doesn't offer you a good landing spot, or some of the obstacles put you in an unfortunate checkmate. In my experience, these tend to be few and far between, but it's still abrupt when it happens. There's 10 worlds, which the game calls shards for you to complete. After clearing the first level of a shard, you're taken to the route map, similar to something you'd find in Slay the Spire, where you pick the path to the boss. In between the levels, you'll find shops to buy items, campfires to restore your health, and challenge levels that aren't necessarily about running to find the goal. There's also hard levels indicated by the spiked rings on the route map that give you an extra item upon completion. Most of these will offer a nice breather between levels and give sway to some good old-fashioned quirky dialogue. These dialogues are the main vehicle for how the story tells itself, and they range from how characters express themselves and react to what's going on, to some philosophical outlooks on existentialism. These aren't going to be the deepest dives into this very encapsulating topic, but they work for the game's theme and help contribute to developing each character. And I do love characters that have a very warped but well-meaning view of the world, and the captain speaks to me the most in that regard. When you first meet him, he immediately assigns you the position of vice captain of his crew. Every bit of dialogue thereafter, he addresses you as such and imparts the wisdom that only a captain could know and or fully understand. But it's genuine and uplifting advice that makes me appreciate his presence, even if he's not really contributing to the story. Of course, the other characters are all fun and expressive in their own ways, but the captain has my heart, oh captain, my captain. Outside of running through shards and completing the game's story mode, Endless Mode offers infinite replayability. I've found myself sitting down for hours on end just running and trying to beat my previous best. However, I do think Endless Mode exposes two design philosophies that are butting heads in this game. On one end, the roguelite element of grabbing run-specific power-ups and items are cool and help differentiate the run, but on the other hand, Because speed is so important to the ranking system in this game, it becomes obvious which stat is the best for getting those S ranks. Without any boost items, you find yourself getting middling rankings like B's and C's and D's even if you couldn't have played a level any better. With just 1 or 2 boost items, you'll be raking in the S's no matter how poorly you play. In one game, I got an item called the Booster Pog, and it just kinda broke the game. Get a sustain item on top of that, and boredom becomes your biggest obstacle in Endless. Now, of course, not every run is going to give you an item like the Booster Pog, but even before I got that item, I was clearing levels without much of an issue, thanks to the other boost items. Still, Endless is a lot of fun and provides more content after you finish the game. Always a nice bonus. I think it'd be neat if the game could implement a time trial system to compete with friends and their records. No clue how complex it'd be behind the scenes, but something that let me race against my friend's ghosts on a given seed would be pretty fun and would match up to the game's theme of speedrunning. You've been watching and or listening to the video this whole time, but I have to gush about the visuals. The characters are striking and know their style well. Hats off to the captain once more for rocking the white and pink. And the biomes offer such a wide array of colors. The forest biome sometimes turns into an autumn lush. The desert says trans rights with pink sand under pale blue skies. The sun overlooks a beautiful horizon in the snow biome. In some ways, I hate that the level has to end, as I want to immerse myself in these gorgeous settings, but alas, the world is crumbling away, and with it goes the moment. In the end, I suppose that's what the game is all about. Life forever remaining in motion. Thanks for watching.
Bum, bum. Noise. Why is this loading too? Why is it not going full screen? Are you okay? What? One sec. Why do you think this is full screen? This is not what full screen means. You're like F11 full screening it. Yes. Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to do. Make sure to head over to Hookie's channel. Drop him the old view or two. Drop him the old like, the old subscribe. If you're feeling frisky. Glad he's on our side. You want him in the enemy ranks. Yeah, Haste is really good. I also enjoyed it. I was surprised by it. It's very fun. Okay, now we got this guy. Mr. Sushi Drew. I've not watched this. Yeah. It is it is quite long. Look at that. 18 and a half minutes. Holy poo. Well, I mean, it's not your fault that there's so many games that are coming out that are interesting. Now, is it? This is the link to this video. Ditto everything I just said. Go follow Drew. Follow, don't subscribe. It's why, okay, you know what's annoying? Subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Twitch. Completely different things. Can we get some sort of uniform word? That'd be great. All right. Let's see what we got. I've not watched this yet. I purposely didn't watch it because I knew I was going to watch it here.
What's up, YouTube? I'm Sushi Drew, and welcome back to Ahead of the Game. Spooky season is right around the corner,
Scared
and
me.
October 2025 is shaping up with creepy adventures, chaotic roguelites, and hidden gems across all kinds of genres. I'm highlighting the games that I'm personally most excited for, and who knows, you might find something to add to your playlist. Let's go.
Disabled it. Haha, sucker.
October kicks off with a heavy hitter, Ghost of Yotei, from Sucker Punch, the team behind Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Yotei transports players to 1603 Japan, where you take on the role of Atsu, a low-class mercenary whose family was murdered by the mysterious Yotei 6. Without the rank or honor of a samurai, Atsu adopts the persona of an onryo, a vengeful spirit feared even by elite warriors, using ghostly powers to track and take down her enemies. The story drops deeply from Japanese folklore, yokai myths, and Edo period ghost tales. Unlike Ghost of Tsushima, where heroism is tied to honor and poetry, Atsu's journey is raw, personal, and survival-driven. The devs actually trekked out to Mount Yotei in Shiratoko National Park to capture the natural sounds, the landscapes, and even the way the snow crunches underfoot. The inspirations are clear. On one hand, you have Red Dead Redemption 2's slower, more immersive world building, and then on the other hand, you have Breath of the Wild's player freedom. Gone is the Ubisoft-style checklist. Instead, you make camps, and the world comes to you. Quest givers show up at your fire, rumors spread organically, and suddenly you're not chasing icons on the map. You're living like a wandering swordswoman.
How am I supposed to determine whether or not I want to play this game if you're comparing it to a game I really do not like and a game I really, really do?
Combat is deeper this time. You've got dual swords, chain weapons, polearms, and even firearms. You can disarm, grapple, and yes, you can even call in your wolf companion mid-fight. It's bloody, weighty, and cinematic. What really excites me is how this installment expands the world I loved in Ghost of Tsushima, with larger maps, freer exploration, and a focus on discovery. The team at Sucker Punch, working with cultural advisors to keep the world authentic, seems to have crafted a game where stealth, strategy, and storytelling all feed into the same experience, and I cannot wait to get lost in this beautifully haunting world. You won't have to wait long for Ghost of Yotei, as it releases on October 2nd, exclusively on PlayStation 5.
Oh my god. I was just gonna... That's so... I was about to say, well, I feel like I said this last time, is that the cadence in which you talk about things and like how you go over the game is very much so like state of plays themselves. And I was about to say it again, and then you put this this screen up. Well, there it is. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this. I didn't like the first one nearly as much as I wanted to. I love Sucker Punch, but like didn't quite do it for me. But but a big part of it was the Ubisoft feeling, so like the fact that they're kind of I don't know. Like the checklisty feeling is one of the reasons I didn't like the first one, but also is because I just didn't feel like the combat was basically, it's just not a Souls game, but it looks like one, which makes me not be able to deal with it. It sets up false expectations in my head of like guy or lady with big sword, looks heavy, does not feel like Souls. And I just wish it did, basically. Which obviously would put a lot of people off, but that's my hang up. I feel like, I don't know. I kind of want to just try it anyways, though. Whoops.
Now, if you prefer your October gaming with a shot of adrenaline and a sprinkle of chaos, then you might want to check out Absalom. Guardcrush Games has teamed up with Dotemu. Both studios previously collaborated with Lizard Cube on Streets of Rage 4, and now they're back with what they're calling a rogue 'em up. In other words, cool. It's a side-scrolling beat 'em up layered with roguelike progression. The game takes place in Telem, a fantasy world torn apart by magic and ruled by the oppressive Sun King Azra, who's outlawed magic and enslaved mages through his Crimson Order. You stand in the shoes of rebel champions, Galandra, the necromantic sword wielder, Carl, a brash dwarf brawler, Cider, a nimble skirmisher, and Brome, the frog wizard, each with widely different playstyles and motivations. Combat is where Absalom truly shines. It fuses slick beat-em-up combos, light, heavy attacks, dodge, counter, with magic spells and punish mechanics that reward timing and skill. You chain up combos and build mana and unleash arcanas. Flashy, screen-clearing special attacks that look and feel devastating. But then, the roguelike layer kicks in. Each run is a new experience. You choose from rituals, which are the passive upgrades, and earn inspirations, which are the active skills. You navigate branching paths, and even complete side quests. It's an arcade brawler that evolves as you play it, with meaningful progression and strategic depth. Adding to excitement, it looks absolutely gorgeous. Super Monks brings hand-drawn visuals inspired by French comics, fluid animation, and pairs it with a stellar soundtrack featuring Gareth Coker, who worked on the Ori series, Yuka Kitamura, who worked on Elden Ring, and Mick Gordon, who worked on Doom Eternal.
Doom!
Plus, the game supports both local and online co-op, so teaming up with combos is totally on the table. I'm super stoked for this. It's everything I wanted in a beat 'em up. I'm super stoked for this. It's everything I wanted a modern beat 'em up to be. It's stylish, chaotic, replayable, and if it delivers on its promise, Absalom could redefine the genre this year. You can check out Absalom when it arrives on October 9th on all major platforms.
I feel like this is the prime example, maybe. I don't know what else you have in this video, but this game is like one of the prime examples of just like the absolute dire situation of video games right now. Where like this is going to not, I'm assuming this game is going to get very little to no attention and it'll probably be very good. Like it's just going to exist. But we'll see. I don't like beat 'em ups at all. I haven't played that many, but I liked Dragon's Crown a lot. That's really the only standout one for me. But honestly, this just looks like, because of like the rogue element and not necessarily the exact art style, but just like the feeling of not this art style, but the style, the amount of style it has. It feels like I wouldn't be surprised if you told me this game was made by like Supergiant. It feels like Hades is like propped up in 2D, which is just like, yeah, it looks really good. I have no idea, like, this is, again, an example of, like, I have no idea how I'm ever going to get to this for myself, but I really want to, based on what it looks like. Also, hello, Ham. Welcome in. Never too late. Well, I mean, I guess you could get here in, like, the last 3 seconds of the stream. You didn't do that, though. You have done that. Everyone's done that at some point. Demo was nice. Like that the few beat 'em ups coming. This one looked like the best. Yeah, I mean, to me, not even close. It's not a genre that I generally play, like I said. So, but this makes me want to play it. The genre.
By Sweet Carol is one of those games that feel like it came straight out of a dark children's book, the kind that fascinated and terrified me growing up. It's being developed by Little Sewing Machine, the indie studio led by Chris Darrell, who worked on the Remothered series, and published by Just for Games. The story follows Lana Benton, a young girl who uncovers a portal to the mysterious kingdom of Corolla, ruled by sinister aristocrats and populated by unsettling anthropomorphic animals. The game takes obvious inspiration from classic Disney animation, but here, the whimsy is twisted into something eerie and sinister. They wanted to channel games like Resident Evil, Clock Tower, and Gris for their thoughtful pacing and atmospheric tension, all to create a sense of childlike wonder twisted into dread. On the gameplay front, expect cinematic horror blended with platforming and stealth. Lana can shapeshift into a rabbit to navigate tight corners or vanish from terrifying enemies, while a supporting character, Mr. Basie, a loyal companion, helps with the cross-stage traversal and puzzle solving. The slow-burning, tension-filled pacing honors the legacy of psychological horror classics rather than chasing jump scares. The visuals are all hand-drawn, frame by frame, and it gives the world a kind of life that pixel art or CGI just can't match. You can feel the love and effort in every scene. Bye Sweet Carol is doing something rare in horror. It doesn't lean on gore or cheap scares. Instead, it relies on atmosphere, dread, and storytelling all just up in this unsettlingly beautiful Disney gone wrong aesthetic. It's the kind of game that'll probably stick with me long after credits roll. You can check out Bye Sweet Carol when it comes out on October 9th on all major platforms.
Same day. Yeah. Oh no. Same day. Yeah. Good luck. Unfortunately. God. Yeah, I'm not interested in that, but I mean, it looks like visually, it's crazy. It looks so cool. I might enjoy it, but I'm not even. I can't even put it on my list. There's too many other games, but it is very cool looking.
Speaking of nightmares, few series do dark fairy tale horror as well as Little Nightmares. In Little Nightmares 3,
I've got
the nightmare
Supermassive
expands.
randomly doing
This
this.
time you're playing as Lo and Alone, two kids trapped in a nightmare realm called the Spiral. One of them carries a bow and the other a wrench. It's like the Hunger Games if Katniss teamed up with Bob the Builder. The whole game is built around cooperation, solving puzzles, boosting each other up, sneaking past horrors together. You can either play online co-op with a friend or solo with an AI companion. This one's being developed by Supermassive Games, the studio that brought us Until Dawn and the Dark Pictures anthology games, with Bandai Namco Publishing. They've taken over from Tarsier Studios, who are actually working on another game called Reanimal, but the tone and visual design remain unmistakably Little Nightmares. Visually, it's as haunting as ever. Dimly lit sets, exaggerated monsters, and that toy box meets nightmare art direction. The sound design continues to carry weight too, with creaks, distant groans, and distorted lullabies filling every quiet moment. What has me hooked is the potential for co-op to intensify the dread. There's something so much more terrifying about keeping a friend alive while monsters stalk you. Little Nightmares 3 doesn't just want to scare me, it wants to test how I can work with someone else under pressure. And for
Basically the
newcomers,
same
the
day,
original
too.
Little Nightmares is getting an enhanced edition with upgraded visuals, so there's no excuse not to jump in. If you want horror that's more unsettling than screamy, and that looks like it's crawled out of a children's drawing gone wrong, then you might want to check out this series. Little Nightmares 3 launches on October 10th on all major platforms.
We need to stop. No more games for like a whole year. No games in 2026.
One
Zero.
of the most surprising games coming next month, Ball Pit, is a mashup of Breakout,
Oh, yeah, this
Vampire
looks
Survivors, and base building progression. It's being led by indie designer Kenny Sun, joined by a small team including composer Amos Roddy, and together they built something that looks equal parts retro and completely fresh. Here's the premise. Balbalon has collapsed, leaving a massive pit of monsters and treasure.
Balbalon.
You dive in with enchanted balls, ricocheting them through waves of enemies, catching them mid-air, and chaining combos. Over 60 types of balls can be fused together. You got explosive balls, burning balls,
Yeah, I feel like I need
or
to play
Brick
this.
Mother balls that spawn more projectiles,
I love Brick
each
Breakers.
unlocking new strategies on the fly. Outside the chaos, there's a whole city building layer. Rebuilding
my
New
God.
Babylon means
Again.
constructing over 70 structures that unlock upgrades, characters, and meta progression to keep runs evolving. Every run is reactive
name
and
Jack?
skill-based,
Jack,
with the
get
ball
outta here.
juggling already fun before the upgrades even come into play. If this hits, this could easily be one of the most addictive indies of 2025. Ball Pit launches October 15th on PC, PS5, Xbox Series S and X, and Switch, with Game Pass on day one and a Switch 2 version
Oh,
later this year.
Game Pass. Okay, I guess I am gonna play for sure.
So,
There you
Double
go.
Fine has a new game coming, and this time you play as a lighthouse. Yeah, a lighthouse. Not
yeah.
the keeper of the lighthouse,
know about
not
this one.
some ship at sea, the actual lighthouse itself, and somehow it looks incredible. The game's called Keeper, and it's directed by Lee Petty, the guy behind Stacking, Headlander, and Rad. Double Fine is leading hard into surrealist adventure here, with no dialogue, no combat, and no obvious exposition. Just a giant crumbling lighthouse that suddenly wakes up, sprouts legs, and starts wandering across the forgotten sea. It's absurd, it's weird, and it's exactly the kind of thing Double Fine exists to make. The gameplay is built around exploration and puzzles. The lighthouse shines its beam to bring plants to life, activate strange machinery, and literally reshape the environment. You're joined by a seabird companion named Twig, who helps out with small interactions like perching on switches or pulling levers. It's all about discovery, wandering through dreamlike landscapes that shift and transform as you light them. Think Salvador Dali meets Studio Ghibli, but with bricks and mortar. This is environmental storytelling at its purest. No words, no HUD clutter, just atmosphere, puzzles, and a world that feels alien and alive. If Double Fine pulls this off, it won't just make you care about a lighthouse. It might make a lighthouse one of the most memorable protagonists of the year. Keeper launches October 17th for PC
boy.
and Xbox Series S and X.
Strong
and yes,
words.
it'll also be on Game Pass day one.
Oh.
So, the Katamari series is finally rolling back into the spotlight. Once Upon a Katamari is the first new console Katamari in 14 years, and honestly, it feels
pretty
surreal
accurate.
even saying that. This
that
is
part
a
of the
series
game, or was that
defined
you?
Weird, joyful chaos. For me, back in the PS2 days, I played Katamari Damacy so
Keep
much
getting
that I
jump
used to
scared.
walk
I
around my
know.
room and even go outside and imagine what things I could roll up into a ball. That's how deep this game lodged inside my brain. The original creator, Keita Takahashi, has long since moved on. He left Namco years ago working on games like Watam and other experimental projects like the most recent To a T. But Bandai Namco and the new dev team at Ren Game are carrying the torch here, trying to keep the same blend of whimsy and absurdity alive. The setup in this game is nonsense. The king of all cosmos has once again destroyed everything in the universe, the earth, the moon, the stars, and it's up to you as the prince to roll a katamari through time and rebuild it. We're talking Jurassic dinosaurs, ancient Japan, the Ice Age, entire eras just waiting to be rolled up and turned into new constellations. They added new tools this time around, a magnet to pull in items, rockets to give you bursts of speed, and even a timer that freezes moving objects so you can scoop them up. On top of that, there are 68 cousins, each customizable with different faces, colors, and accessories. And for the first time...
Hold on. Are you telling me that did you record that wrong? And didn't record it? Specifically on the 69? You're like, I will not say 69. I'm better than that.
freezes moving objects so you can scoop them up. On top of that, there are 68 cousins, each customizable with different faces, colors, and accessories.
Nice.
And for the first time, there's a new multiplayer mode, Katamari Ball, where up to 4 players compete to build the biggest Katamari before catching it in for points. What excites me is we're literally getting a new Katamari game. Like, that's enough for me to get excited. But this honestly feels like the perfect mix of nostalgia and new ideas. The core loop is still that meditative joy of rolling junk into bigger junk, until you're rolling buildings and entire continents. But now with power-ups and multiplayer, it could evolve without losing its heart. For me, this isn't just another game release. It's the return of the most weirdest, most joyful series that ever convinced my bedroom floor becoming a playable level. If it lands, this could easily be the comeback of the year, and it might end up being one of my favorite games of the year. Once Upon a Katamari launches October 24th on all major platforms.
Yo, Dan, what's up?
There are very few
Hey, you
games that
can't-
hold
I
a
said, "Yo,
truly
Dan," you
special
can't say
place
you
in
Dan.
my heart, and Dragon Quest is one of them.
We're getting
Growing up
emotional.
with the original Famicom release was absolutely transformative for me. This game became my gateway to learning Japanese, and I was blown away by Sugiyama Koichi's brilliant orchestral score that made every moment feel epic. Dragon Quest is the absolute granddaddy of JRPGs. It created the template that every JRPG has followed since 1986: turn-based combat, experience points, and character progression. Dragon Quest II expanded that formula with party-based combat and a much larger world. Now here's something interesting about Square Enix's remake approach. They're tackling what's known as the Urgent Trilogy in chronological story order rather than release order. Dragon Quest III is actually a prequel to the first 2 games, so Square Enix released that HD2D remake first last year, with 1 and 2 following this October. Team Asano are the visual wizards behind Octopath Traveler, Triangle Strategy, and Live Alive. They've perfected this HD 2D art style that makes pixel art feels more nostalgic and cutting edge. Sugiyama's legendary compositions are getting the full orchestral treatment they deserve. They've completely rebuilt these games from the ground up with additional content and quality of life features like objective markers and auto battle options. Both games now feature scrolls, a new item type found in treasure chests that lets characters learn specific spells and skills. For example, the hero in Dragon Quest I can learn Dragon Slash to deal high damage to dragon enemies. Dragon Quest II gets a major addition with the Princess of Cannock joining as a playable party member, specializing in frizz and crack type spells, whereas she was only an NPC in the original. Plus, Dragon Quest II's sigil system returns and has been added to the first game, granting combat advantages, like the Sun Sigil making special abilities land critical hits. I'm genuinely excited about this one because these games represent pure, distilled JRPG essence, solid mechanics, and compelling progression wrapped in a world that feels both intimate and epic. Plus, there's apparently surprise content that Team Asano is keeping under wraps. Whether you're a longtime fan or newcomer curious about where JRPGs began, this looks like the definitive way to experience these legendary adventures. Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2-day remake launches October 30th on all major platforms.
Oh, we're gonna have Mina the Hollower still, alright.
Yacht Club
there it
Games,
is.
the studio behind Shovel Knight, is finally back with a brand new adventure, Mina the Hollower. Instead of knights and shovels, this one pulls inspiration from classic Zelda and Castlevania, blending top-down exploration with whip combat, clever puzzles, and plenty of secrets to uncover. You play as Mina, a whip-wielding mouse inventor known as a Hollower, someone who can literally burrow underground. She's called to Tenebrou Isle after the spark generators, her own creations that power the land, mysteriously fail. And from there, it becomes this mix of exploration, monster hunting, and mechanical mystery. If you grew up with Castlevania or the Game Boy Zelda games, this is going to hit you right into nostalgia. Mina's whip combat feels straight out of classic Belmont territory, and the burrowing ability adds a modern
You can play the
twist
demo.
that lets you
I
dive
think,
under enemies,
unless it was temporary.
dodge projectiles, or even
It's really
sneak
good.
beneath hazards to pop up on the other side. It's fast, snappy, and it looks incredibly fluid in motion.
I had a feeling.
Something the original Game Boy wouldn't be able to render.
It's weird.
The world itself is a large interconnected map packed with secrets. There are hidden rooms, optional sidearms that change up your play style, and trinkets you can equip for extra perks. Bosses are huge and theatrical, big, grotesque beasts with patterns to memorize and weaknesses to exploit. And thanks to the Game Boy Color inspired HD visuals, the game somehow looks retro and modern at the same time. It's pixel perfect, but enhanced with widescreen, dynamic lighting, and smooth animation. And then there's the soundtrack. Jake Kaufman is back, the man behind Shovel Knight's phenomenal score, and he's joined by none other than Yuzo Koshiro. If that doesn't ring a bell, he's the legend who composed the original Streets of Rage and the Yi series. So yeah, the music is gonna slap. There's even a demo out. It covers the opening stage and first boss, and everything you unlock there carries into the full game. If Yacht Club Games can deliver the same tight design and heart that made Shovel Knight timeless, this could be one of the standout indie action adventures of the year. You know, I say that about all the indie games on this list, but that's why they're on the video. Mina the Hollower launches October 31st on all major platforms.
Yote the only thing that's not like a smaller scale game here, I guess.
Thank you so much for reaching to the end of the video. If you liked it, make sure you hit the like button because it helps tremendously, and subscribe if you want to see more. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments. Let me know what games you guys look forward to in October.
Yes, in
And
the
if you want to
comments.
hang out and chat about games in real time, I stream every day on
Whoa,
Twitch.
whoa, 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 whoa! Oh, fuck. You already saw it. Damn it. I was gonna... I didn't want you to see that. No.
Twitch and YouTube, so come by and say hello. With that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.
You piece. Oh, you should have said you piece. What are you doing? Again, that is the channel. Go follow. No! Subscribe. This man. It was long. I don't know what, like, it was long. But the thing is, like, it's just the fault of, like, I don't think any of the individual sections were too long. It's just that there's so many games, and you also cut a bunch of games, like you said. There's just too many of them. And you're not going to be like, the first half of October video is out for 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. There's so many games, you got to do it every 2 weeks. Yeah, I don't know. what the solve is there. We are going to move on to the last part of Ludo Lingo today. Thank you for the video. That was great. Drew? Hold on. I didn't even, hold on. I got to go back to it. I didn't even like it myself. What's wrong with me? Dunk. How was I not? Apparently, I wasn't subscribed to you either. I mean, what does subscribing even mean these days? What does it do? What does it do? I don't go to my subscription page ever. But yeah, it was very good. I like, I think it was, even though it was long, it was still, like, it didn't feel long because everything within it was paced well. It's not like you were hovering on a game for too long or something. Or, like, beating a point into the ground for no reason. I don't think you really, like, it wasn't drawn out. I think it's just a side effect of the reality of life right now. All right, so next on the list is I spent 2 hours writing reviews for a bunch of the games. I forgot the quarry because I'm not very smart. I probably forgot something else that I've played recently that I forgot to write a review for. But I wrote up little review, varying sizes and varying amount of detail for the last 9 games that I played, roughly, except not actually, because like I said, I missed the quarry. I probably missed some other things. I'm just going to read through them, and if anyone wants to talk about any of it, feel free to stop me and say something. Otherwise, I'm just going to get all this out there. As always, these are posted on my Backlogged, a website that I love very much. All right. So let's go here. Get rid of this. Go here. Go here. Should I have? No, that. That. Do that. I have 1 like. I just posted this, so. All right. Okay, this is my first one. Again, this is me catching up on a couple months worth of games, so slightly outdated in some ways, not in others. Let's go over them. Monster Train 2. A couple months back, I spent about 10 hours with this and decided to put it down afterwards. I was reminded of the reasons that Monster Train 1 didn't quite do it for me in the first place. I don't like things that feel automated in games, and I especially struggle when things are automated. I enjoy the thought process and the way you can craft your deck, but I don't like how the combat plays out. It's just too passive for me. This is a game I'm willing to go back and give another shot, though. It's not bad by any means. I will say that I find the art style pretty off-putting, too. It feels cheap. Almost reminds me of those ridiculous ads for mobile games that look like they're not even real games. This is rarely a hang-up for me, but it's particularly stand out here, which is saying something. It's pretty difficult to get me to say a game looks bad these days. Everything looks fantastic. I want to like this more. When I'm not drowning in games, never, I'll try it again. 3 out of 5 stars. Not bad. Actually pretty good. It's in the not quite for me category, basically. Speaking of 3 out of 5 stars, we have Peak. Shelved, yeah, meaning that I might get back to it if I have time. Let's see, probably not. The reason I was putting off reviewing a lot of these is because they're games I'm not done with or might play more, but like at some point I just have to write something. So that's why I had to catch up on 9 games, because there was like 4 games that I intend to go back to. But like at some point I just got to write something, or else I'm going to forget how I feel. Peak. It's fun. 3 out of 5 stars as well. It's fun with friends. Of course, that's something I hear said in regards to just about every multiplayer game in existence. There is something unique about Peak, though. It strikes a good balance between silliness and skill requirement. You will get out whatever you put into it. I've only spent about 7 hours with this, but I would like to play it some more. The main reason I haven't is due to how many other fantastic games are sucking up my time. I do love the implementation of proximity chat. This is not new to Peak, but it executes it very well. Listening to someone's voice start to disappear as they fly off a cliff is always funny. Oh no, I spelled it wrong. Bro. What is going on with my internet browser? Is like not working. Why can't I refresh? Okay, I guess I'm just not editing it. So you're telling me I'm not allowed to edit it? Okay, there we go. Where was I? As they fly off a cliff is always funny. Let's try that again. It's probably not going to save. Oh my god. It's not saving. Well, then save. Okay, there we go. Listening to someone's voice start to disappear as they fly off a cliff is always funny. Oh my god, it didn't update. That's bothering me. There's also more than meets the eye here. It allows you to express yourself in ways that are pretty neat. The facial emoting, the silly gestures, and the vocal effects all add up to help you create your own persona. The blank slate of the character designs allow you to kind of role play as whatever character you want. It's easy to sell it and make the ascent a lot more enjoyable than it otherwise would be. The game itself, it's fine. Your own creativity and willingness to get absorbed by the game paired with the camaraderie you have with your team is what does the heavy lifting. What the? What is happening? Oh, I think the site must be like having problems. What the heck? Damn it. Why did it just like crap out? It won't load. See if I can bring it back up. Well, this is great. Oh, okay. I got it back. Weird. Shit, where was I? The game itself, it's fine. Your own creativity and willingness to get absorbed by the game paired with the camaraderie you have with your team is what does the heavy lifting here. It's hard for me to attribute very much of the game's fun to the actual game itself, just like Repo or other similar games. I will say, when this game first released, I had no intention of trying it. It seemed like it was just another meme stream game, which I guess it kind of is. However, once I saw that AgroCrab, the developer behind Another Crab's Treasure, developed it, I was much more willing to try it out. I loved that game. It's cool to see that they were able to churn out this game in such a short amount of time, but it's also a bit worrisome to me. I personally would have much preferred they continue to work on a sequel to Another Crab's Treasure, or perhaps another similar game instead. Haven't looked into it, so I could be way off base, but the success of this game, does it mean they abandoned their other direction? That would suck. Peak feels like a lucky success in an attempt to chase a trend. It paid off. Plenty of devs have surely tried to do so as well and failed. Where do they go from here? We shall see. Sword of the Sea, 4.5 out of 5. I had a great time with Abzu, but I found Journey to be quite boring and forgettable. I was really curious to see how I'd feel here. Good news, this is by far the most I've enjoyed a game like this. It's absolutely beautiful. I love everything about the visuals. The environments, the animations on display, the effects. As you do just about anything, it's all stunning. As I've previously stated, visuals are usually not that relevant to my enjoyment. But with a game like this, it feels more important than usual. This game is about the environment. Of course it needs to be striking and fill you with wonder. It's most impressive that the game never lets up in this department either. You're constantly being introduced to new looking areas from beginning to end. The sand flowing underneath your sword as if it's water immediately wowed me. It seems so simple, but it looks so cool. I won't detail all of the environments as they're best kept secret if possible. I went in knowing nothing about this and I'm glad I did. Every new area was a surprise. I love aquatic animals. I love areas that are full of water, whether that be a beach, underwater in any body of water, or something like a waterfall. I just love water. This game feeds me all of that and more. The music is fantastic and fits the theme of each area progressed through. It also runs through a flurry of emotions. Sometimes it's somber, sometimes it's meant to rush you along. You never quite know what to expect next. The game feels amazing to play, which, as you may know, is by far the thing I care about most. It's so fluid, it's so responsive, it's so snappy despite being literally floaty. I've actually never been a fan of any skateboarding or snowboarding games, but this almost makes me want to rethink that. I do think it's a bit different in this scenario, as this is more so about traversing open areas and soaring through the air a lot. It's not quite the same. Pulling off tricks is alright, that's probably the least interesting part of the gameplay here for me. A few of the abilities you learn over time feel great. However, some felt a bit useless. Like I said, I didn't care for the trick stuff. It felt tacked on and didn't really serve anything. There are certain segments later on that transformed the gameplay substantially that I loved, but again, I don't want to give it away entirely. If you've played this, you know. I do feel like I need to say this, however. One section in particular had me feeling like I was living out a childhood dream. I liked sharks a lot, okay? This took me about 5 hours to complete. I see a lot of people saying it took them 2 or 3. I guess I see how that's possible, but I was really taking everything in and exploring in every area, trying to find almost everything as I went. I think it's better experience that way, but to each their own. I couldn't bring myself to just mainline it. There were too many interesting animals to find and cool paths to check out. As someone who typically needs a game to feel good to play to truly enjoy it, this game is a breath of fresh air. Without such fantastic game feel, I wouldn't have been as enthralled by the rest of what the game succeeds at. I'm so glad this game exists, and I'm so glad I played it. Please play it. And Muran, thank you for the raid, sir. Welcome on in. You're just in time for whatever the next review is.
Oh, you yet again. You're a persistent one, aren't you? You silly little
Elden Ring Night Rain.
You're on 10 with the 54-month resub.
Yo, 54 months, baby!
Wah-ha-ha-hoo. DK. Donkey Kong.
DK. Donkey Kong. DK. Donkey Kong. Let's get a little shout out from Mr. Guran. What were you up to, man? Appreciate the raid. Hope you had a good stream. Welcome on in. I'm doing a whole lot of talking right now. Just losing my voice. Mario Mon. Oh my god, Mario Mon is so good. Yeah. Hell yeah. Man, I forgot about that. One of the best games this year. If it were to count, which it doesn't. But honestly, it's so good. Hope you're having a good time with it. But 3 to help your wife get to the airport? Holy crap. You need, I think you need some sleep there. Okay, so we went through Monster Train 2, Peak, Sword of the Sea, and now the next review, Elden Ring Night Rain. Well, go get some rest for sure, Uran. I appreciate the sub and the raid. Hope you're able to fall asleep quickly. All right. Let's talk about Elden Ring Night Rain a bit. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. A From Software game earning something other than 5 out of 5. That's wild. This is not necessarily what I want from From. They're my favorite developer, and I feel like they've never truly missed since Demon's Souls. This game isn't really an exception to that, but it's definitely the one that falls the most flat for me. That said, I did enjoy my time with it quite a bit. I played it off and on for a few weeks at launch, and it was a lot of fun. I just didn't care too much to return to it. We only beat about half of the bosses, but I didn't truly feel compelled to keep pushing forwards. This is for a few reasons. It's focused on the one aspect I wish they would put less emphasis on, and I've been increasingly worried about the importance placed on it. the bosses. It seems as though this is what most people point to these days when it comes to why they enjoy FromSoft games. Simply put, it's not why I play. They are a nice checkpoint of sorts, but I generally am in it for the exploration, discovery, tone, feeling of isolation, sense of progression, and the general feel of combat. The hyper-focus on bosses and the difficulty of said bosses just ain't it for me. I've actually been getting a bit tired of that aspect being placed on such a high pedestal. This mentality of being on the grind to get good is just so worn out. I was never a fan of that terminology being thrown around even a decade plus ago, but now it's really overstayed its welcome for me. It really does feel like the speedrunning and challenge running community has hijacked FromSoft in a way. It's not just Night Rain. Shadow of the Erdtree saw a significant bump in difficulty, especially with the final boss. Not everything needs to constantly be getting more difficult. I feel like I should reiterate here that I am of the belief that Elden Ring, especially plus Shadow of the Erdtree, is the #1 contender for best game ever made, and it easily is one of my top 10 games of all time, just in case this comes off too negatively. I think Night Rain does a lot of new things that are pretty cool. The speed in which you can traverse the environment is a welcome change to spice things up. Discovering things around the map is fun. Trying to coordinate with your team while doing so is a great exercise in teamwork. It really is a great formula. I love the process of Night Rain. I just wish it didn't have to culminate repeatedly with a giant bullet sponge. It just got a bit repetitive and tiring to me. I don't think the game is too hard either. It's balanced pretty well. I just don't find the boss fights that fun on repeat attempts. They're cool spectacles for sure, but are they truly fun to fight multiple times? Maybe sometimes. I appreciate they tried something new here, but I hope this doesn't set a new precedent for them as that has them shift gears into more multiplayer-focused games. I'm cool with this one, but if this style of game detracts from their single-player output, I'd be off-put for sure. The Dusk Bloods exists too, so we shall see how that goes. That is Elden Ring Night Rain, 3.5 out of 5 stars. Next, We Love Katamari Reroll plus Royal Reverie, 2.5 out of 5 stars. This was my first Katamari game. I'd always known about the series, but never really cared to try it. Since it was on PS Plus, I thought, why not give it a go? It's fun. I was amazed by just how horny it is. That caught me out a bit off guard, but I found it pretty funny. It's got a unique sense of humor, but I appreciate it. The music is absolutely wild, too. It feels all right to play. At first, of course, the controls felt really awkward. I did mostly get used to them, but I still don't particularly love them. If you just kind of zone out and get into a good rhythm, it's fun in short bursts. Honestly, I don't fully understand why the series is so beloved. Perhaps it's mostly the quirkiness. That I understand. After completion, I don't really have any desire to play any other Katamari games. I got my fill. I already got a response. Well, the first one originally came out on the PS2. At the time, the scaling tech, going from the thumbtack size to planet size in one level, was pretty novel and impressive, even though it wasn't completely seamless. Another big point in its favor was the simple control scheme. It was always the game I recommended to first-time gamers who weren't accustomed to using gamepads. Whew. I don't know about that. I think that and the simple gameplay made it accessible in a way a lot of games weren't in 2004. Also, the first one had a much stronger sense of quirkiness, as you put it. We Love was a decent enough follow-up, but they really sanded off a lot of the edges that gave the original its unique charm. But yes, as you summarized, it's mostly the quirkiness. Fair enough. Fair enough. Tech was super impressive. Yeah, I could see that. See that? Mario Kart World review. Here we go. Oh god, I finally decided to write this. All right. 5 out of 5. I thought this would be the easiest 5-star of all time for me, if not a miraculous 6 out of 5. However, a few things that have taken somewhat of a wrong turn here. I firmly believe that given some more time, this game will reach those heights, just like Mario Kart 8 evolved dramatically over time. Don't get me wrong, I'm still giving this a 5 out of 5, as I have enjoyed it immensely. It's just not without issues. As someone who is a mega fan of Mario Kart overall, I've spent countless hours streaming all of the games, making videos about them, talking ad nauseum about them. I adore Mario Kart, all of them, except Super Mario Kart. The second this was revealed, I lost my mind. I immediately assumed it would be my game of the year and that it could do no wrong. In some ways, it is. However, I don't really care for the open world. It could be cool if it was more interactive. I must say, this does not bother me nearly as much as it does others. I always assumed this would just be an additive thing. I'm much more concerned and interested in the traditional racing. The open world could be totally absent from this game, and it would have zero effect on how I feel. I'd love for it to be more interesting and involved, but I truly don't care if that never happens. The problem here is that the core design philosophy of Mario Kart was altered to make the open world work. The intermission tracks are generally ass. They're not fun. They reward sitting back and erupting into the front at the last second with items. It's unbalanced. I can see them being fun for people playing casually, as they are designed to make you feel as though you're more easily able to keep up with the pack the whole way. They give the illusion of balance, but in the end, the better players will go from 20th to 1st in the last 10 seconds almost every single race. Compound this with Nintendo's insistence, although they're gradually pulling back from this, on having people play intermissions in online races, and you have a recipe for a decent amount of people being upset. On the other hand, there's an elephant in the room. This game has a massive skill gap issue. In order to be really good at this game, you need to make full use of the game's new mechanics, which most people are not going to do. This, in turn, will put off average players, as they will not be able to keep up with the best players whatsoever. In my opinion, this gap was much less pronounced in something like Mario Kart 8 or Mario Kart Wii, for instance. Sure, pros in those games will generally destroy average players, but it felt as though the above-average players had a shot at taking first sometimes. In World, that's quite unlikely on most regular tracks. Again, this is where intermissions come into play, as they even the playing field by making the races more reliant on RNG. All of that aside, this game is incredible. It looks fantastic, runs beautifully, has some of the best music ever crafted, and feels super satisfying to play. It really nails just about everything. I love the new mechanics of wall riding, jumping, and grinding. It has transformed the game into not just a kart racer, but a platformer. It's the Breath of the Wild of the series, some might say. This, of course, means it's going to put off fans that are purists. Honestly, I am one of those people in some ways. I do miss the tightness of the drifting that was introduced in Mario Kart Wii and perfected in Mario Kart 8. I wish we could have more of a fusion of 8 and World here. The thing is, the floatiness of this game benefits it greatly. As someone generally opposed to games feeling floaty, I gotta give it props. It allows you to pull off such wild parkour. If the game were as tight or stiff in a good way as it was previously, this would not work nearly as well. Your ability to control your kart in the air to land in specific locations and pull off wild maneuvers is awesome. I really do love it. Like I said before though, drifting is why I love arcade racing games so much in the first place. It's taken a little bit of a backseat in this game to emphasize the platforming, and that's the only real negative I can sling at the way the game plays. It's significant though. I do think drifting in this game is still a 9 out of 10, better than most racers, but it's not quite the 10 out of 10 that Wii and 8 were, if you catch my drift. I can't wait to see how this game evolves over time. I'm going to cut off the review here, probably return to give an update next year sometime. If you want to hear a more in-depth discussion on some of the topics mentioned here, feel free to check out this video I posted a couple months ago. It's still very relevant. I could type here forever, so I'm going to stop now. I probably forgot to address a bunch of things, but my fingers hurt after typing out 6 reviews back to back. I think I just... Oh, there's an ad happening. I think it just started. 2.5, that's nuts. So where they posted my backlog. I review every game that I play. There's more. I have 3 more. I'm just gonna pause for a moment because the ad's playing, I think. I got 3 more coming, don't you worry. Again, I would like to remind everybody that the way that I use the scale of the review of the 5 stars is that I make sure to use the entire scale, and I base it almost entirely, not entirely, but like 90% base it off the simple question of how much do I enjoy this game? How much do I enjoy playing this game? Not how good do I think this game is? Because I think that's the wrong way to go about it. That's the like professional journalist way to go about it, which I think is bad and leads to everything being a 7 or an 8 or a 9. Dumb and annoying. So I use the full scale. So I do have plenty of games that are rated 0.5 or 1, or for instance, playing Link to the Past for the first time earlier this year, and I gave it a 1.5 because I did not enjoy it very much. I'm not saying it is not a good game. I'm saying I didn't enjoy it very much. The quality, oh, hello, Mr. Clean. Sorry, I forgot to say hello earlier. I saw you write that, but I was like in the middle of speaking for 10 minutes straight. Welcome. But yeah, so like I have thoroughly enjoyed playing Mario Kart World, like to the highest degree. So it's a 5 out of 5 for sure. As is the next game on the list. Yeah, Backlogged is amazing. I love this website. The next game on the list, I didn't write as much as I probably should have, but I was rushing at this point because this was right before the stream. And I had to kind of get through it. I didn't write a whole ton here. It's not like spoilery or anything. I don't think. But it is Death Stranding 2. Another 5 out of 5 in this insanely stacked year. How Kojima Productions manages to make such strange things so interesting and engaging is beyond my comprehension. I love most aspects of this game. It's better than Oh my god, I almost said Dark Souls 1. When I wrote DS1, I was like, oh god. Like, I shouldn't do that. Because that means Dark Souls 1 to me. Could mean Darksiders 1. Could mean Dead Space 1. Death Stranding 1. It's better than Death Stranding 1 in almost every way. I'd argue the plot is a bit weaker, and I wasn't as invested in most of the characters here. In some ways, that's untrue, though. Tomorrow, for instance, is really interesting, plus Higgs is much better in this game. There are so many ways to accomplish the same task. It really is up to you to decide what methods you want to employ, whether that be by using tools you equip on yourself, vehicles, or by building useful infrastructure. Some of these are best suited in specific scenarios, but in general, you can really do whatever feels best to you. The combat is greatly improved from the first game and way more interesting to engage in. I was actively seeking it out at times because it's actually fun to fight now. It's also fun to slink around undetected as well. The music, the way it plays automatically, the way you traverse the map, the way it makes you want to unlock new ways to traverse the map. It's just also strangely compelling. Even things that appear as though they wouldn't be fun to do just are. I avoided using zip lines for the longest time because I didn't find them particularly interesting. Once I started to, late game, I loved them. This goes for just about every single gameplay element available. On the surface, they appear uninteresting, but they're executed so well. Oh, by the way, this is probably the best looking game I've ever played. Holy, what a sight to behold. I don't really know how to explain my experience with these games, and I wouldn't want to spoil anything. Going in totally blind is absolutely the way. I feel like the more you know, the more likely you are to want to hand-wave the game as a bunch of nonsense. On paper, it's boring as heck. In practice, it's a joy from beginning to end. I shed a tear at the end, and I'm not 100% sure why. This game pulls out some weird emotions sometimes. I look forward to everything this team puts out. Bring on OD and Fizzant. Donkey Kong Bonanza, another 5 out of 5. I am so glad we got this instead of another 3D Mario game. Donkey Kong is just so much cooler. They really went into this with the mindset of, okay, he's an ape. What can an ape do that Mario can't? I think I spent like probably 60 hours with it. I actually don't remember. That sounds right. I think I spent like 80 on the first one. That also could be wrong. They're both similar. Spoilers for endgame stuff is included in this review, by the way. The result is this masterpiece. The only knock I can give the game, truly, is that I don't love the visual design of the Bonanza forms. They're ugly as heck. I'm not too sure why they went with the gray route color-wise, plus their general beefiness is just a bit off-putting to me for whatever reason. Actually, I dislike the fourth Bonanza form, the elephant. It's definitely the weakest part of the game for me. It trivializes exploration too much for my liking. Ironically, it's probably the best looking form, it just looks the most fitting. That aside, this game is pretty perfect in my eyes. I love how it feels to play. Everything is just so damn satisfying. I've always wanted a Donkey Kong or Bowser game where you just get to smash and destroy things. It's actually kind of unbelievable this game exists. It really is a dream game for me. The punching is so impactful. I love how it shakes the screen, creates particle effects, causes craters, etc. There are so many tiny details that all add up to an immensely satisfying single button press. Not only that, but you start adding on how great it feels to jump, climb, hover, dig, and every other action you can perform. It's just fantastic. I love the feeling of exploration here. The game is constantly encouraging you to just go off on an adventure and see what you can find. Take it at whatever pace you feel like. Stick around in an area until you've found everything and then move on. Or get what you need and continue onward. Come back later, no big deal. At first I was 100%ing every area as I went along, but by the final third of the game I started mainlining it a bit more. The music is wonderful. Not quite the height of some past DK games, as that's GOAT territory. However, I will say, the credits song had me teary-eyed. What an incredible song. Speaking of, the K. Rool return was fantastic. I loved everything about the final areas of the game. What a wild ride that was. The game really ratchets up to 11. It really does feel epic, which I don't tend to praise games for nailing. Final bosses generally don't command such attention anymore, but K. Rool absolutely does. Afterwards, you get more challenging things to do, and I appreciate that. I actually love the difficulty overall. Not too easy, not too hard. You can essentially create your own difficulty by how you choose to accomplish things. I only had 3 hearts for the entire playthrough, which made the game not feel too easy for me. I will say the bosses throughout the game went down a bit too fast, but I also wouldn't want them to be difficult. So that's not really a negative here for me. It feels good to just wreck things as DK. He really shouldn't be struggling. He's a big boy. Dream game. Love it. Give me more. And the last game that I've written a review for, Hollow Knight Silk Song. 4.5 out of 5. I played for 31 hours, just past the end of Act 2. I feel satisfied. Upon looking into the busy work required to move forward, I put the game down. I did just about everything up until that point and had thoroughly explored everywhere. It was beginning to get tiresome, despite loving most aspects of the game. I actually found the difficulty to be quite well balanced, but I was beginning to get frustrated with the way the game progressed as time went on. I just wasn't interested in going around to all of these areas multiple times over, receiving vague side quests, then needing to look up what to do, then repeating the process. In other cases, it was just a bunch of glorified fetch quests. I'm not really a fan of what felt like a big to-do list. I just loved exploring naturally. But at a certain point, that wasn't going to be possible anymore as I was missing a couple things and wasn't really sure what they were. The game is pretty unclear about what exactly you need to do to continue. As someone who was barely paying attention to what was being said by NPCs or written elsewhere, sure, you can roast me for that, I just don't find it interesting. Sure, that might make it my fault and not the game's fault. The combat itself, though, and the movement, nearly perfection, of course. What a wonderfully fluid game. I loved traversing the environment. Everything felt so precise, and it rarely, if ever, felt as though it was the game's fault. It was always so clear when I made a mistake, and it never felt unfair. I appreciate that immensely. I only lost my beads once. Most bosses or gauntlets went down in about 1 to 3 tries. A couple took over 5. That's totally fine with me. It's when you get into that 5+ or 10+ territory on repeat that I begin to become frustrated. I will say that the runbacks to certain fights was a bit frustrating though. It felt like this game enjoyed wasting your time at points. That was one thing that generally began to wear me down over time. Nothing in particular on its own is too much of an issue. The game is just very demanding of your concentration at all times. Getting hit a couple of times by a normal enemy on the way back to a boss, which then makes you want to fight said enemy to get your health back before continuing forward. Bleh. This is coming from a massive FromSoft fan, by the way. It's a bit different in a 2D game, in my opinion. Plus, I think they made a great change by putting the checkpoints much closer to bosses in Elden Ring. Again, I don't have an issue with the difficulty of this. It just feels like wasted time. The feeling of exploring a new area is tense and very rewarding, as are the fights. I just wish the game wasn't quite so long. It feels bloated with too much busy work for NPCs I just really don't care about. I know this is more of a me problem, as I'm not a lore fan, really. I just like I like fighting things and jumping on things. At least this game nails those aspects. I really did have a great time. I know this review is going to come off as negative, but this is certainly one of the best games of the year. It's just not exactly what I'm looking for in a game like this. Also, I think my focus on the negative aspects comes from the overwhelming praise I've seen heaped on Hollow Knight and now this for years. I'm just trying to balance out the conversation a bit. .5 out of 5. It's almost like Devil's Advocate. Just because all I see is nothing but absolute insane praise for Hollow Knight and Silksong that I just don't think is quite deserved to the level in which it's happening. Feels a bit much. But I think it's really good. Obviously. Obviously very, very good. Chophead followed me. Oh. All right. Well. That's that now, ain't it? Whew. Whoops. Oh, wait. Oh, is Dan still here? He said he was leaving. But I just realized he was the only person who posted a question in the question section. And I was going to get to it. Hey. But only if he's here. Super Dan. Super Dan! There's no Donkey Kong Bonanza spoilers. That was amazing? It was amazing. Yeah, I don't find the muscular anthropomorphic animals sexy, you're right. I don't. Unfortunately. This was a little different than the first one I did, because the first one I did, I had a bunch of the interactive, like, trivia kind of stuff happening. I just had different things that I wanted to kind of do today. I feel like every week will be a little bit different, depending on the mood, you know? I think we lost Dan. I don't know how long he thought I was going to talk about Donkey Kong for. The reviews, you have an articulated writing style. Articulate. I don't think I've ever been called that before. Thank you. I feel like I ramble a lot. I'm good at rambling. Yeah. I gotta stay more on top of the reviews and like do them more like or closer to when I actually play the game and not get so behind on them, because I literally just wrote all of that within the span of 2 hours. You're back. Welcome back. Dan, I was gonna go over your question as a finale to the show today, because you asked the question in the question section. Remember that? I'm still a little bit confused as to what you meant. So maybe a little clarification. You asked, what is the perfect gaming experience in your opinion? You could do an example for PvP and single player in-game experience. So do you mean you're just like asking for a specific game that I think is the perfect gaming experience? Or are you asking more so the idea? Like something that doesn't exist but I wish it did. Like, what is the perfect experience if I were to just like create the perfect experience? Like, those are two completely different questions. It also could be like your environment around you while you're playing. If you have a title, yeah. Give an example of one, the idea in general is what I was like. Okay. So you're saying the second thing more so. I think that, yeah, there would be there's definitely two different gaming experiences that are like the top for me. And it is like multiplayer and single player. Like there's two different answers. And I feel like most people are, from what I've seen, most people are either very into multiplayer games and don't care that much for single player games, or the other way around, very into single player, don't really play multiplayer. I feel like my favorite experiences I've had with both of those things like on equal footing. So yeah, there would be two different answers. And I feel like one of them, so if we're gonna go the PvP route, I feel like my favorite, like, perfect experience playing games in a multiplayer online scenario is what has happened a couple times with games that have not been incredibly popular. Again, we're going to bring up Concord, or like Mario Tennis Aces, or, I mean, honestly, like Mario Kart doesn't really fit what I just said because it is insanely popular. That would be for a different reason. But just getting into smaller communities where everyone kind of knows each other, and like just enjoying a really great game with a bunch of other people who know that that's a really great game and they all love it, but there's not too many people. I had that experience with Medal of Honor on the Wii, and that was the first multiplayer game online that I played, and that was one of the best experiences that I've had. So like ideally for me, honestly, is to be a significant, or feel like you're a significant part of a gaming community, because the community is so small that you just inherently are, because you're more important, because you're not just playing Call of Duty or Mario Kart, and you're not just one of 40 million people. You're one of like a few thousand. Like, it's so much more fun being in a tight-knit community like that, on a game that everyone really enjoys and is like there because they all love the game so much. So like I said, I've had that experience with Medal of Honor Heroes 2 on the Wii. I had it with Mario Tennis Aces on the Switch, and Concord on PS5. I don't know if any other games really fit that. Maybe. I'd have to look. Actually, I'm already on this right now. These are all the games that I've given a 5, so it would probably be one of them. Because there's other multiplayer experiences that I've thoroughly enjoyed, but obviously don't fit that at all, and it'd be a different situation, like Rainbow Six Siege, or any Mario Kart game, or Super Smash Brothers. Like, they're very popular, so it doesn't really have that extra added like feeling of being special. Yeah, I don't know if there's any other game that fit that for me. I mean, Call of Duty World at War on the Wii, technically, also, because obviously not many people were playing it on the Wii versus everywhere else. Right, Mr. Clean's question. That was the other thing I was going to do. I did not give a good answer for Dan. I hope he's not upset. Well, I gave part of the answer. I didn't give the other half. In games like It Takes Two and Split Fiction, how would you like to see Souls-like aspects incorporated? Sure. Well, like, do you mean like, literally, if it was Hazelight making their next game, No, I didn't do it, Dan. Did you not hear what just happened? That'd be great. Did you miss this? Hold on. Now I'm getting distracted. Here, let me replay it for you. I swear to fucking God, dude. You fucking rock. Please, Marshall. Please. Let me suck your cock. That is easily the most cursed clip on the stream now. No contest. um, Mr. Clean, so do you mean like the salsa's better? Fine, I'll listen to it. My salsa, 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 salsa. My salsa. My salsa makes all the pretty girls want to dance and take off their underpants. My salsa makes all the pretty girls want to dance and take off their underpants. My salsa, where'd everybody go? That was what I said. That's what the pinned comment that I put at the beginning of the stream was. For every bunch of 5 gifted subs, I will recite an Eminem verse as if it were a poem. That's what I said I would do, so that's what I did. I might keep that as a normal thing somehow. Some sort of redemption. I don't know what, like, in what way, but yeah. Redneck. Oh my god, that's so cursed. I'm trying to answer Mr. Clean's question, and I still have to answer Dan's question. Mr. Clean. So, in games like It Takes Two and Split Fiction, how would you like to see Souls-like aspects incorporated into them? So you mean like, as in the games exist in the way that they already do, but like the way that they play with genres, you want like as part of it to have like a section where there's Souls-like stuff? Or are you asking me if I want to see an entire game built by them or any studio, like take an entire game that is a Souls-like, but make it a co-op game like that? Two very different questions. Which one are you asking? Either way, I mean, yeah. I think it, like, I mean, in some ways it already is implemented in the first way, because like there's parts of the games that feel like that in some way, and but obviously they don't go full into it. The second one, okay, yeah, absolutely, that'd be great. Like if From Software themselves, or like Aggro Crab, like I was mentioning earlier, the Another Crab's Treasure people, they could do it. That'd be cool. They just like make a game that is obviously intended to be like very similar to a Souls game, but you're playing entirely in co-op with like all these weird and like crazy elements being implemented over time. Yeah, why not? And like make some weird story out of it. That'd be great. It's creative. I mean, it's a different, like, I just generally, not even just Souls, like, I want to see more studios take on that, like, core co-op game experience, because, like, nobody has really pulled it off as well as they have, in terms of making an entire game based solely on that. Like, the whole game's split screen, and then it's sometimes not split screen, and, like, that's the whole focus. There's a few other games that are kind of like that, but they're really good at it, and there haven't really been like copies, and I say copies as in like a good way. There haven't really been copies or attempts at emulating, even after, like, A Way Out wasn't that great, so it wasn't surprising that nothing really came out of that. But after It Takes Two, because that was a massive game in 2021. So you would think by now there would be more games that were kind of like it. There was actually something revealed recently that I think was similar to it. I don't even remember what it was at this point. But it looked good. And it is kind of like trying to do the same thing, which is cool. So yeah, I don't care. I just want more games like that that are really heavily focused on co-op, regardless of whatever they like. It's combining a genre of. But a Souls like, sure. That could be cool because like they could almost make it so that you were kind of playing. Oh, I just realized we're over 100 subscribers again for the second time ever. It happened. It happened. Oh my god. That's crazy. Yo. Yeah, if you had a game where you were kind of like, yeah, on Twitch, on OnlyFans, you had a game that was kind of structured like It Takes Two or Split Fiction. No, you know what okay, this actually gives me a really interesting idea for a game. You're playing it and you have to play it co-op with somebody else. But the game, okay, so imagine you're playing Dark Souls, or Zelda. It doesn't matter what you're playing. Probably something a little bit more involved where you're like constantly paying attention though. So like, you're playing Dark Souls, you're playing co-op with somebody. There's only one character, but the game switches who's playing, not at random. Maybe, I mean, I don't know. There could be there's a maybe it could be at random, maybe it could be at key like certain things happening. And it like bounces the control back and forth between who's playing. And then otherwise the other person's watching the person play. Now that would be great. So like you have to always be paying attention because you don't know. Like maybe there could be instances where like mid-attack of a boss like going after you, it like swaps and gives control to the other person. So you better be paying attention or else you're gonna get whacked. That would be really cool. I think that would be an interesting kind of answer to what you're saying. Or you could have two characters that sometimes like fuse into one character and then during that time it happens. Like you're playing a Dark Souls game, you're two separate characters, you're playing separately, and you have like this ultimate fusion attack that then turns it into one character and only one of you's playing, but then it bounces control back and forth between those two people. So one person's playing, then the other person's playing, then the other person's playing, and then you go back to being split apart. Dude, this is game of the year. I figured it out. Somebody do that. Why have we not done that? The first thing, what comes to mind when it like a perfect gaming experience when it comes to single player games, I think like there's a lot of things when I think of a lot of my favorite games or games that I really enjoy playing. There's various different routes to go with that. Like I obviously love Souls games a lot. But then like on like a way different spectrum, like I love Slay the Spire a lot. I love Donkey Kong a lot. Those are like three completely different things. I love Expedition 33 a lot. Zelda. Like some of these have overlap, but in a lot of ways they're like super different. So a perfect gaming experience, I feel like it probably comes down to what's going on here? The act of being in a world in like it probably boils down to a game like Elden Ring, or Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, or even on a smaller scale, it's still similar, like Dark Souls itself. Just being in a game world, controlling a character in third person, and having there be a sense of mystery to the world that you want to discover on your own and not be told. And for the sense of exploration to be and discovery to be rewarded constantly by your own curiosity. And like the feeling of that compounding over the course of the game over and over and over again. And I think that, like I said, Souls games really nail that. The two most recent Zelda games nail it. Elden Ring also nails it. Even something like Death Stranding 2 is very good at that. Just kind of like looking around and being like, what is going on here? Like, should I go over there? Is it worth going over there? Why is that there? And like having these questions and then answering them just by like exploring. Usually also tied to like a significant battle system or like it can't be just that, or it's not going to be the perfect experience for me. Like it has to have layers of things going on, whether that be like you have some sort of loadout, or like progression that you're trying to like build up your character to. That's probably my perfect experience is just kind of just being like plopped in a world, and specifically 3D, like a third person action game. And it's important that you are not given much direction so that the experience of the game is you finding your own direction. But I think it works a lot better in 3D than 2D to me. Because like something like I was saying with Silksong, it doesn't quite work the same way in 2D to me. I find it easier to get lost, and it's a little bit less interesting to explore, although I still really like it. I love Metroidvanias. But even Metroidvanias don't quite fit what I'm saying because there's too much structure for my perfect scenario. Because like there is a way, you're still like waiting for specific things to do certain things, which is why I think Zelda is so cool, because they kind of just give you the tools and then they're like, figure it out. Zelda 2 nailed that for you. Wow. Man. I wonder what me playing that game would look like. That would probably be a disaster. Metal Gear is really good, for sure. Metal Gear is a more structured version of what I was saying. It also has the mystery and stuff, but it is actively telling you and like answering questions on purpose. But yeah, Metal Gear is really good. So that also, I mean, that's not perfect, the perfect situation for me, but it is like way up there. Like I love Metal Gear. Kojima's a smart dude. Oh, we got a disagreement happening. So yeah, two perfect gaming experiences, a mysterious, very explorable and unwinding world that is interesting and rewards your curiosity a lot, and it's compounded with like a very either fun battle system or like sense of progression or RPG mechanics to like build up your character. Or on the opposite end of the spectrum, a small, tight-knit community for a multiplayer game that that kind of makes it so that everyone knows each other and you feel more important in the grand scheme of things because you're one of a couple thousand and not one of multi-million people, multiple million people. But then you can fill in the gaps there with tons of other games. Like that completely excludes something like Slay the Spire, which is like obviously way up there for me. And Concord for multiplayer. I said Concord, Medal of Honor Heroes 2, World at War on the Wii. Not as much for that one. Mario Tennis Aces on the Switch. I've not been a part of other smaller communities for multiplayer, really. But I'm sure other games would fit the bill if I was. We'll see how it goes with Mario Tennis Fever in February. I'm sure it's going to be a similar situation. Not the auto mod. Sweaty on stream today. I played Wii Sports. Oh, God. Wow. Awesome. Dude, I haven't played Wii Sports in so long. What, did you do everything, or were you mostly doing certain ones? I ended up mostly playing bowling after the first couple months of that game. Played tennis some. Kind of stopped caring about it. Same thing with golf. But and boxing I'd never really cared for. But bowling was where it was at. Played that for a long time. Oh yeah, baseball. I knew there was something else. Baseball was fine. The thing is, we got Mario Tennis, and we got Mario Baseball, and we got Mario Golf. We don't have Mario Bowling. Should we? Probably. I remember like perfecting the bowling to the point where I just figured out exactly how to throw it correctly every time. It was still very hard to consistently do, and I did not actually perfect it because I didn't like constantly play perfectly, but it was definitely there was a way to be consistent. It was like a very specific like angle and twisting of the wrist at a specific time. Anyways, that's actually going to be the end of Ludo Lingo, okay? Episode 2 in the books. Be back next week with something else. Something else. We're gonna have to come up with a new topic of the week, and hopefully get some more questions for next time.